It's the witching hour. It was a little bit after the witching hour. Maybe I could have a minute. Waited a minute so it'd be 13 after. But shh, I got something to do. I was so excited I forgot to do this. So let's do this because this is why we're here.
You're watching the 2023 Correllians Live Telethon. The team here would like to thank you for all of your support in assisting us in bringing a contingent of paladins to the Parliament of the World's Religions in Chicago, Illinois, August of this year. We are trying to raise $10,000 to assist with the basic needs of housing, food, and travel expenses. Here are some words from the members of the event team on why it is important that we reach that goal.
Hello, I'm Right Reverend Sir Elizabeth, Program Director of the 2023 Correllians Live Telethon. Thank you so much for tuning in to our weekend-long event as we raise $10,000 to bring a contingent of paladins to the Parliament of the World's Religions coming up in August. We need to house and feed about 20 of us over in Chicago for 7 days. And to do that, we're going to need at least 10 grand. So here's our ask. Go to Correllians.live/donate and make us a monetary donation to our cause. Every dollar helps. We also have psychic readers and an auction you can participate in too. If you can't make a monetary donation, then do us another very big favor and share the event with your friends over social media. You can find us on the Pagan World TV app on Roku, Correllians Live and Magic TV via YouTube, and Correllians.live via any web browser. Thank you so much for your help and enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody. I am Reverend Sir Richard Donahue, also known as Cloud the Pagan Rapper, and I am a member of the Order of Paladins. Now, to help us send a contingent to the Parliament of World's Religions, to me, means one thing. Community. It's the idea of coming together with multiple faiths for common goals. And it is paramount for the pagan community to have a seat at that table. And I, for one, am very, very proud that we are afforded this opportunity to do so. But to do that, we do need your help. We're trying to raise $10,000 so that we can feed and house the contingency of paladins that will be going to the Parliament. And it's through your help that we're going to be able to get there and represent the community in the best possible way that we can. So please, smash that donate button, all right? Smash that donate button. You can go to Correllians.live to donate. And I want to thank you guys for taking part in the telethon, okay? Check out our auction. Get yourself a reading from Divinationality. Do all of the things that we have provided for you throughout these 3 days, and let us come together in community and achieve our goal and allow us paladins to go and represent us at Parliament. Thank you very much. May you all blessed be.
One of the best things about Parliament is one of the best things that we need in our society, which is unity, compassion, and fellowship, which is something I'm extremely looking forward to. And I hope that this will be inspiration for the future in helping us to be more as one in a community. So join us, continue to join us. Thank you for sharing and liking our posts, and please continue to sponsor us.
At the Parliament of World Religions in 2023, I'm personally looking forward to broad exposure and deep engagement with various wisdom traditions from around the world, particularly as regards pressing issues from today and future goals for our human journey. I expect that I'll be able to incorporate much of the learning back into my own personal path, as well as share tangible insights back into the metaphysical and spiritual community that I work within.
From all of us here at the 2023 Correllians Live Telethon, we want to thank you again for your support. Please be sure to check out Divination Alley and get yourself a reading. Or check out our online auction that is overflowing with wonderful craft items, books, and services for sale. Remember, our goal is to raise $10,000, so please help us spread the word about the event, our cause, and be sure to stay tuned for more. So thank you all again, and may you all blessed be. Enjoy the telethon.
Yes, thank you for being here with me. It's been a long day, and it's going to be a fun time tonight with the witching hour. I'm Pamela Kelly, Sir Pamela Kelly. I'm one of the paladins, and I'm just really happy to be with you tonight and to spread the word about the Parliament of the world's religions, which is really important to me. I think the uh, interfaith is very necessary. There's a lot of things I learned from Joseph Campbell. If you haven't read any Joseph Campbell or know much about Joseph Campbell, he is a scholar of comparative religions, and he talks about how a lot of our basic beliefs, there's a lot of like the power of three, the special twins, that are, the magical twins, the force that is all. Ooh, the force that connects us all. And if that sounds kind of like Star Wars, well, Joseph Campbell was a scholar, and one of his students was George Lucas. And George Lucas based the Star Wars mythology off of some of those common themes that we find in world's religions. So if Star Wars can bring us together, like yesterday or 2 days ago now, because it's now the 6th in the East Coast at least, then, the Parliament can bring us together. So it's kind of like a hero's journey to the Parliament with the Paladins. Um, Anyhow, like I said, I'm Pam. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I am somebody who I used to be a radio disc jockey back in the day when terrestrial radio was the king, and there was something magic listening to the radio late at night because the music and the energy went through the air. It was invisible and you could feel it. There were times that my aunt had a big wooden. I'm not like I had a television. I'm not that far back, but my aunt had one of those big wooden console radios, and she lived in Germany. And in Germany, here in the United States, we usually just do the AM and the FM, amplitude and frequency modulation. But in Europe, they have a lot of the other bands that we don't normally use. And I remember nights laying in um, in the bed and having the radio on, and the atmosphere, because the atmosphere either caresses or it invigorates or it impedes the energy of the radio waves, and that's a really good way of um, of illustrating how energy work and magic can work. So I'm laying in bed, and the signal starts to fade. So I poke my foot up out from under the covers, and I put my foot on the radio, and then the signal comes even stronger, and do I become an antenna. I move around, I get stronger signal, weaker signal. That is an analogy, if you will, to magic. It's finding that power, that energy around you, and learning how to harness it, how to bring it together, how to move it, how to dissipate it. And I think radio is a good analogy for that. Um, Radio, like I said, is frequency modulation and amplitude modulation, AM and FM. The amplitude modulation goes on forever and ever and ever. Frequency modulation, when you're driving somewhere and you have the terrestrial radio on, your signal will die out after a certain amount of time. But AM radio goes on forever. It does, however, anyone who can remember back in the day when AM radio was the king, you go through tunnels, certain, it doesn't have um, really good signal. You're not going to get good transmissions, like going through the mountains. Buildings can impede it, but FM it's a lot stronger, and the buildings don't impede it, but it only isn't for a small area. But let me go back to the AM. The reason I brought up AM. Thank you, Kai. I just noticed that you said something about the all the mythic narratives in a single great story. Yes, and that's where George Lucas based Star Wars off of. So let's go back to radio. Sorry about that. I definitely have ADHD. It's not an excuse, and I do go off on different tangents. So I have a creation called Dark Rabbit Radio. Rabbits are a significant animal energy that I feel connected to. So I do go off on different tangents and different rabbit holes. So let's go back to the radio. There's a reason I'm bringing up radio. There's a reason I'm bringing this up. Because when you're talking about AM radio, like I said, AM radio goes forever, and during the day you have the different layers of the atmosphere, and one of the layers of the atmosphere is the ionosphere, and it's electric. It's electric ionosphere. The ions are in the ionosphere. And during the day, they're all heated and they're partying and they're going all around. And here comes the AM radio waves, and it goes up to the ionosphere. And sometimes it might hit off of a thing or not. But a lot of times during the daytime, the AM radio just goes out into outer space. The AM radio waves go. So I was on AM radio. If you've ever been on AM radio, your voice is somewhere out there, traveling the speed of radio waves through the universe right now. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? So we have the ionosphere during the day. Like I said, it's all like a sponge. Some of the radio waves might get trapped in there. Some of it might go into the universe, and some of it bounces back down to Earth. A little known thing, if you do radio, if you have an AM radio station, if you work in radio, back in the day we had to manually turn down the power or turn up the power of AM, because when night happens, all those ionosphere, all those ions, they kind of go to sleep. Cold, they compact. And now, instead of having a sponge, if you throw a ball against a sponge or a mattress, it's going to go oof, right? But if you throw it against a wall, it's going to bounce right back at you. It's going to bounce it right back at you. So that's what happens at night with AM radio signals. If you want to take a little bit of a experiment right now, you can listen and see how many. I used to do this all the time when I was younger. I would, if I was bored, or if I'm like driving down US Highway 50 where there's nothing at all, you can pick up AM, because remember, AM goes forever. You can pick up AM radio signals, but on nights, because because the ionosphere is now thinner and more likely to bounce the signals, those AM waves will go a lot farther. So you can listen to stations from. I used to live in England, and when I lived in England, I was listening to the radio station from a town near Ipswich. Don't you love that name, Ipswich? I was listening to the radio station from Ipswich, and the signal went down. There was a problem with the transmitter, and we got radio. I'm not kidding. Radio Budapest, like way in the middle of Central Europe, came through on the AM waves. And that's the what AM can do. And you're probably wondering, why am I talking about AM radio and in the witching hour during the witchy show? Because that's what I'm trying to equate this to is, this is magic that's in the air around us. This is energy that's in the air around us. And by understanding the difference between the energy that you put out in the sunlight as opposed to the energy you put out during nighttime, you have to learn the environment around you when you work with energy, what works best. Going off of what Favre and Eric were doing in the last show, Phaedra was making the same the same argument, the same example that I would when she says, if you're trying to get healing and the moon is waning, you don't want to bring energy to you. You want to dispel illness. So when you have the when you have the understanding of working with the energy, it helps you with your spell work. It helps you with the magic working that you want to do. And I just found that radio, especially AM radio, is a good way to explain it. So let me go ahead and tell you the amazing things about AM radio. I told you about the ionic, the ionosphere, and it's like this, it's like a hard wall, and you're throwing a signal against it, and at night it goes bounce, 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 and during the day it's like a sponge, and some of it escapes. So here in the United States, because that's where I'm based, back when the United States government started, having radio, they said we have these big cities, and we have this vast amounts, expanses of nowhere, out in the middle of nowhere, nothing. And that's what I was talking about. It's fun to listen to AM radio when you're out in the middle of nowhere. So the FCC said, let's build these big transmitters. And during the day, if you have a local station, the local station will hey, the hog reports are like this, or the weather's going to be like this. And then at night, the AM stations go down, and these big blowtorch, WOW, WGN, there's a big one in Oklahoma City, they come and they blast signal across the United States. So people who may not have radio, they will at least be connected. That energy connects our community that was the United States back in the 40s, the 30s, 40s, and 50s. And that's how we can all connect, through that energy, through the invisible radio waves. So how do I equate this back to magic? Let's go back to how I started this story of laying in bed and the signal fading, and I put my foot against that radio, and then I become the antenna. And it's that same type of vibration, that same type of energy. You have to open yourself up to the energy around you, and learn how to utilize it. And I'm just talking about radio here, but you do that with the moon. You do that with the seasons. You do that with the magical correspondences. A good example is good old Mercury retrograde. We're in Mercury retrograde. Like everyone else is, Mercury retrograde. You know that meme with the person riding the bike, and then they got a stick, and they lean over and they stick the stick in the spoke, and then flip over it, and then they blame whatever. So the one I'm talking about is Mercury retrograde. If Mercury is in retrograde, you have to understand the energy that's what's going on with the energy. What's happening with the energy with Mercury? Well, Mercury is the fastest planet. Mercury's always going forward, and sometimes Mercury goes so far ahead of us, and it has to slow down. It looks like it's slowing down, and of course it's an optical illusion. It's Mercury's always going, but according to us, in relation to us, Mercury slows down and starts going backwards. Like, whoa! And during that time, it's like, hold on there. Wait a second. Let's make sure everything's okay. Make sure that we've got. I don't want to tell you how many times we had to redo some of the graphics, or one of my favorite stories is a group planned an entire conference. Oh, here's a good one. I feel one year that this was back in the 90s, or no, the early aughts, the naughty oddies. There was this one concert season for like the big name concerts that like everybody was canceling left and right. And I'm like, did they plan this all in Mercury retrograde? I know I kind of jumped a little bit there with Mercury retrograde, but Mercury is also communication, and that goes back to radio. And I told you I have ADHD and I do jump around. But yes, you're right. Kai is saying that the AM radio, that technology is still very much alive because radio waves are still what we use for a lot of things. I've got a Wi-Fi right now. That's on a different frequency. It's just AM is at this band, FM is, it's just different bands of this invisible energy around us. And it's part of the spectrum. A lot of people don't realize this. If we go through the spectrum of light, we think of Roy G. Biv, we think about the rainbow. But we don't realize that the waves, that light, we're only talking about visible light. I'm going to tell you something that might blow your minds here. It blew my mind when I learned about it. So we've got visible light, which is the prism, the rainbow. That's one end of the spectrum. I can never remember. There's like X-rays and gamma rays. They're ultraviolet rays, infrared. We know ultraviolet is beyond purple, beyond violet on the spectrum of visible light, and then infrared is beyond the red. So you've got red, red, orange, yellow. So ahead of the red is infrared, and it goes all the way to violet. The other side of that is ultraviolet. X-rays are on that, gamma rays are on that, and radio waves are on that. And this wonderful thing about our planet, this wonderful accident that is our planet, we have this protection around us. The electromagnetic field, the ionosphere, and the things that can come through into our atmosphere that break through are visible light that we see. And of all things, radio waves. I know it just blew my mind of like why radio waves. And you think of like I talked about the fact that radio, thinking about terrestrial radio, a lot of the things that we try to do with the telescopes and trying to figure out the life out there that we know is out there. We just haven't connected, or have we connected with the light out there? Life out there, we use a lot of radio in that technology too, because radio, like I said, radio can escape our atmosphere, and as can visible light. I just think that's really, I don't know. That to me was gee whiz. That to me was pretty cool. But I do feel like I was talking about what I was drawn to as a child is the power of the radio. And I do feel that there's something to that. If you watch shows like Ghost Hunters and such like that, they talk about electromagnetic waves bringing the feeling of people being haunted or other entities. I don't feel that that's I don't think that that's an accident. I was telling General Liz before the show, I said, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to talk about, but maybe I'll do ghost stories. And this is actually leading into ghost stories. Ghosts are a big subject. What are you actually talking about? She's like, what do you mean ghosts? I'm like, ghosts. I'll talk about all things. Well, not all things ghost, but a lot of things ghost. But I think that ghosts, the definition I like to give, what a lot of people might call ghosts, are non-corporeal entities, things that don't have physical bodies like us. Now, what does that mean? Could that be some person or some ancestor that didn't cross over? It could be somebody that's stuck in a time loop. What if they crossed over, but their energy of what they were doing is so strong, like waiting for their husband to come back from his ship, from his journey, and watching out the window with the waves crashing and waiting forever and ever and ever. Is that really that person, or is that like an impression, like a psychic, like they left a little recording there? Um, or what if there are things like, well, most of us are like the Fae. We enjoy the Fae, or we don't, because you have the Seelie and the Unseelie. Um, you respect the Fae, the good people, definitely. Would they be considered non-corporeal, or could they be considered extra dimensional? Or there's a lot of things to think about that. Are There are some people who think that like Bigfoot, or the Yeti could be extra dimensional, like they could phase into, and uh, and there are some other things, whether you say angels or demons, and I'm not talking like in the Abrahamic Christian. I'm just giving those words to that type of energy. That is, whether it's a negative energy out there that's non corporeal, that may be sentient or may not be sentient, or it may be a positive energy that may be sentient or may not be sentient, or it may be positive or negative energy that is together that may be sentient or may not be sentient. There was something that I was going with this, that was really important about that energy out there. I am so sorry. Um, oh, yeah, duh. What do you think we do when I'm talking about other dimensional things? What are we doing when we're casting the circle? What are we doing when we're creating that space? What are we doing? What are we doing when we're cutting through the veil? Are we extra dimensional beings on some other person's plane? Woo! That's a thought, isn't it? We could all be, hey Kai, you want to go party in somebody else's plane and do a circle? Just some things to think about. That I like to think it's the witching hour. It's the time that you think about things like this, the philosophy, the um, metaphysics, and I think that that's one of the things that drew me to magic. That's what drew me to paganism and magic, and it's hard to explain to people who haven't worked with magic. I was trying to explain to one of my friends who's not of our community earlier today, and uh, I'm like, yeah, we believe in magic. And I think they think that we're either thinking about pulling rabbits out of hats, which I like rabbits, so, or something off of Bewitched, or Charmed, or Hollywood magic. Um, but when you connect to that energy out there, when you start having these conversations late at night with people who are I'm about ready to break out into an America song. America was a group from like the 60s and 70s. And they have a song called Tin Man. And the lyrics go, sometimes late when things are real and people share the gift of gab between themselves. Um, I think about that, sitting around a campfire and talking about ghosts, and talking about the energy around you, and manifesting. Um, Going back to the radio thing, and connecting into the radio waves, I became an antenna. I became part of that energy. I became part of that, a conduit. So when you open up yourself to entities like ghosts, or the other things that I brought up, when you open yourself up to it, you can become a conduit. But remember, I was talking about moving around and being able to direct it. when you open yourself up to other entities that have on the other side, non-corporeal entities, you have to be careful that you know how to control it. You have to be careful that you know how to remain that you have, because I don't know. I just got this picture of grabbing a big, radio tower, and it's not quite like that, but it's a nice cautionary tale. Before I go any further, I want to go ahead and say thank you for joining us here for the Correllians Live Telethon. It is the Witching Hour Spellcast. I am Sir Pamela Kelly, and I am a paladin. We are the Sacred Order of Paladins, and we are going to Parliament. We're trying to get as much support as we can from the community to go to Parliament. So that's why we're doing 50 hours of community, of meeting each other and having these conversations late at night, talking about radio. Man, radio, there's something about radio. It's magical. To me, it is, at least. And basically making these connections and having these conversations and going and having these conversations with our friends and family. And most of all, being able to take our conversations and our view of how we see things and how we manifest things and how we try to bring good to the world to the Parliament of the world's religions. That is going to happen in Chicago in August, and we really want to be there. We really want to show who we are. We really want to show what we can do for people. I think I'm not going to be there. I'm going to tell you that, because anyone who knows me knows that I'm extremely agoraphobic. But back to that life of like radio, and now where we are with the internet. My life now is I do a lot of stuff with Zoom, and I create community in Zoom. And I like, Kai, kind of what you were talking about before, is this technology still exists, but it's evolving and it's still connecting people, but in different ways. And I think a better way, rather than the one-way communication of radio, we now have, you can type something in chat, I can read it, and you can even be here. If you have the link, you can come in here and be here with me on this show. And it's a good way of creating community when you don't have other pagans and witches and druids and heathens around you, is finding it in places like this. So I'm really glad to be able to be part of bringing you community, and then bringing our community to the Parliament. So let me tell you how you do it. I have not checked to see if we've earned any more money. I have not checked. So let's see. Let's do a Give Butter. I love this Give Butter platform. And we haven't. Everyone's gone to sleep. If you can, give to the Give Butter, to the let me go ahead and share my screen. Give Butter, if you can, give to our Give Butter account here. It's givebutter.com/C for campaign /Correllians Live, and help us make it to the $10,000 mark to help us go to Parliament. If you can, awesome. If you can't, we understand, but spread the community, spread the love, and share this. Let people know that tomorrow Kai's going to be here doing crafty stuff. I'm jealous. I am not good at crafts. I've never been good at crafts. I'm the person that everyone comes out of out of art class with a, "Oh, Junior, it's lovely," and then I come out and they're like, "Is that a no?" I'm just not good at that. But I will tell you that luckily I was able to pass on a gift I didn't have. I'm going to go ahead and be one thing I haven't told you about myself is I am a mom. I have 4 daughters and 3 granddaughters. A lot of very strong female energy in my life, and a lot of good. I suck at art. I am horrible at art. I am crappy at art. But I'm glad that my daughters are better than I am. And I want to show I want to show you a couple things on the auction. I'm going to go ahead and take my mom prerogative. This is a piece of art that nobody's bid on yet. I'll buy it because it's my kids. She's not a child; she's a grown adult. But this is one that she did called "Alone and Complete," and it's a dry point. And I just really like this one. So, can you tell that she was raised pagan? It's very much a part of a lot of her artwork. So this is one that she did when she was in school, Alone and Complete. And I want to go ahead and share. I know I'm being a mom, doing my prerogative. One of the other things, okay, so she also has these stickers. I don't know. Okay, so this is the uterus gang for because of all the issues that we're having right now with access to reproductive rights. Anyone with a uterus is in danger of having their rights, their reproductive rights, endangered. So here's uterus for it's a inclusive, and then we have girl gang, which is like the same. It's so we have the inclusive, trans inclusive, uterus gang, and then girl gang. So these stickers are now you can buy them now for $15, and I got to tell you this one. My daughter, we do a lot of we like to do a lot of dream stuff. Maybe I'll go into dream stuff in the next hour. But we love to do a lot of dream work. And my daughter wakes up from a dream and she calls me and she's like, "Mom, I had this," and she describes this thing to me, and she draws it right away as soon as she dreamt it, and I'm like, we need to, put it in a letter and mail it to yourself with a date, and don't open it. So if anyone wants to try to look at that, it's a pentacle. It's a with a woman, the the pentacle maiden. I've always liked this one. I wonder if I can make it bigger with yeah, that's my daughter who has the artistic talent. She did the uterus gang, the pentacle maiden, and girl gang. So these are some of the things that you can purchase on the auction. Like I said, I got to do my mom's prerogative and show off the stuff that my daughter added. But we have so much wonderful things in the auction that plenty of things to bid on. Like I said, we've got the 15-minute tarot reading with First Priest Most Reverend Phoenix Coffin Williams. He's like at the very top. So, and then don't forget Cloud, the Pagan Rapper. You can have 4 sessions of creative coaching, some really good readings here through Divination Alley, some jewelry, and books, and I might have to get one of those fuzzy friends. And if you can't tell, I'm pointing at something that you can't see right now. I love like astrology, and I love the moon and star motif. So I think I might. I did not check the chat. Kai, tell your brother I understand totally. Agoraphobia. Kai is saying that her brother is also has agoraphobia, and yes, we're really lucky to live in this age with agoraphobia that we can do things like this. If we were to hang out, when I'm doing this, I'm like, "Hi, I'm Pam," but if we were to hang out, I would just be sitting doing? I'm pretty boring. I'm a grandma. Um, I'm like how Byron earlier tonight was talking about her and Jason being like in extroverted introverts that we can mask, like, be very animated. Um, but I'm pretty chill for the most part if you're hanging around me. Um, I forgot where I was going with this. I hate when that happens. ADHD, it's a thing. Uh, but being able to, oh yeah, being able to do things with Zoom has allowed me to be able to participate. So I, without what we have here, um, with Zoom, or with the stream here, um, I'm able to be part of this telethon, which I'm really glad that I. Were you looking at Kai? I just realized. Were you looking at my daughter's painting? Is that you said? Oh, I was looking at that, or my stickers. I'm asking as if as um, I'm the proud mom, you know. So I want to go back to the sticker because I want to tell you something. This is one of the things I wanted to talk about. And the Pentacle Woman sticker. I want to tell you why I wanted to bring it up. There are some good paintings. I'll have to show you some of her other stuff that we didn't get a chance to um, to uh, to put in the into the auction, but she has some really good stuff. So let's go here. I got to show this to you. Because one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight is I'm a pagan. I'm a witch. I'm also a Dudist priest, Church of the Latter Day Dude. It's a form of Western Taoism, and it's based off of the Big Lebowski. But I really believe in like the Taoist philosophy, which I'll get into in a second. But I'm also an activist, a political activist, protecting voting rights, disability issues, and along with and other things, reproductive rights. But with the disability issues, I'm also an advocate, and I have a, a genetic disorder that was considered to be very rare. But there's a lot of people, mostly women, but not all women. Mostly women were complaining about these things that it would come back negative on test, but and a lot of them were said you're malingerer, hypochondriac, fibromyalgia, which is a real thing, but a lot of stuff that what I have was attributed to only fibro. In fact, that's a kind of a joke in our family. You have just fibro. You just have fibro, which is there's no just fibro. If you have it, it's very painful. But what I have is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is it's a connective tissue disorder. Our collagen, I tell people, our collagen is if it were a knit scarf. Ours was knit by somebody who's drunk and using forks instead of knitting needles. We have really crappy collagen. One good thing about it is I got a baby face. I guess that's good, but yeah, it's kind of messy. But when I was younger, I was really bendy, so that's why I'm going back to this picture of the pentacle. It's like my daughter made an Ehlers-Danlos pentacle maiden of all bendy and stretchy. That's the only reason I came back to her picture here with the pentacle maiden is the Ehlers-Danlos. But part of the reason I wanted to bring that up too is this is May, and I'm gonna respond to what Kai just said too. This is May, and May is Ehlers-Danlos Awareness Month, and we're one of our mascots is a zebra. I've got my zebra behind me, and I'm wearing zebra clothing because they say that when you go to medical school and your hoofbeats, you think horses and you don't think zebras. Well, we're zebras. And but we're actually horses. We're zebras because they weren't thinking of us, and we actually have what we have. But we're horses because they're starting to realize that there's more of us than they realized, that it's more common than they initially thought. And there's a lot of pagans who have Ehlers-Danlos. When I was doing, the Witching Hour Spellcast comes from, I was doing on Blog Talk Radio Witching Hour Spellcast, and I had a show that was me and two other witches with, well, I think a heathen and a witch with Ehlers-Danlos, and we talked about um, how that came into how that helped and harmed our practice as witches having a chronic illness. And I think there's a lot of us who have chronic illnesses and within the pagan community, that I think that there's a time and a place to start having conversations about what it's like to be a pagan with a chronic illness, and how our craft can help us through this, and how our craft can help others. And a conversation I had earlier today is one of the gods. He's more of a hero than a god or a main character in some mythology that I relate to is Chiron. And Chiron is a centaur, and he's a physician. I think I can never remember if it's Hercules or Perseus, but he taught either Hercules or Perseus. And watch it be somebody else altogether, like Jason. But Chiron, in order to learn about medicine, he poisoned himself, and through him dealing with illness, he learned how to be a better healer. And Chiron is the archetype of the wounded healer. And that to me resonates a lot. So as a pagan with a chronic illness, I reach out to that energy in mythology and use that archetype of I've got ADHD, I'm neurodivergent, I have anxiety, I have agoraphobia, but I try to use this as how can I, with all the illnesses and all the struggles I have, use that energy of Chiron, the wounded healer, in with my practice and help heal others. It's just something to think about when you are a person with chronic illness and you're into this community. And I think that's really important, because I think we've run into enough. Lady Liz was talking earlier about setting up boundaries, and I talked about radio waves and energy. And sometimes when you get into communities, thank you, and Achilles. Thank you. Kai said Chiron was the teacher of Hercules. Asclepios, I can never say his name right. Asclepios and Achilles. So Chiron, it's center, and he was the wounded healer. And when sometimes when you go into certain communities, we're because we work with energy, and because we build energy, we can attract people who take and don't necessarily give good stuff back. And I feel that by calling upon archetypes and learning from archetypes like Chiron, we can learn to, rather than like, oh, I'm sick, and try to drain everybody else's energy, I can learn to translate it into something positive to not only help myself but help others. Just a thought. That's one of the things that having conversations revolving around the disabled or the community, the chronic illness community within our community, our greater community is an important thing. Um, and I like, when I started leading circles, um, I was like toughing it out. Oh, I'm gonna lead the circle, and I'm gonna call the quarters, and my body said, no, you're not. So I had my oak staff, holding on to my oak staff. Okay, so he is a demigod. So Kai just mentioned that Chiron is a demigod because he's a son of Cronus and a sea nymph. Um, that's interesting because Cronus is also Saturn, and interesting. We'll talk about that after. Sorry, distracted. So I have this big old oak staff, trying to make it through like the crone I am, and I believe in embracing crone energy and crone power. But I had to start, dealing with my limits, and I started doing my, sitting down in the middle of circle to lead circle, because I just, my illness and my disability was getting the better of me, um, in that. So how do we make? Well, let's go back earlier when we first started. People were asking if you're following this, or if you know somebody who is hearing impaired, or deaf, they can, or just neurodivergent and need, for whatever reason, need the closed captioning. We found out earlier to make our space here more accessible, that if you go to Facebook, you can do closed captioning, but the YouTube may or may not do closed captioning. It may probably do closed captioning on playback, but not right now. So I think we Serenity, thank you for sticking around, and you have a great night. I appreciate you being here, and anyone else that's needing to drop off, then I understand. Because this is the witching hour. This is us staying up late, and that's my dog barking at cats outside. Oh, Ebony, I don't know if you're still around. If you are, great. If not, I'll tell you later. But I saw you had a Totoro uh, picture behind you, and my dog is named after Susu. I think it's Susu Atsuri, the Soot Sprites. She's a little black puffball, and she's named for the Soot Sprites on Totoro, in Spirited Away. So, um, yeah. Hi, baby girl. Yeah, and then my daughter, the artist, she has a Great Pyrenees, a big old white wall of fur, and he's named Kamaji after the guy in the bathhouse in Spirited Away. She's actually, because she named him Kamaji, that got me thinking that maybe I'll name her off of something from Spirited, or from, yeah, the Susu. Sorry, the Susu means soot. So thank you for that little bit of ADHD break. Uh, but back to, so Kai's talking a little bit about Chiron. That Chiron is, front legs are human in appearance rather than the entire low half being equine. So that's interesting. But again, Chiron's the wounded healer, and there's other things that we can take from um, other things that we can take from mythology for healing, and also things that we can take uh, from our craft. I talk about my oak staff that I lean on. When I lean on my oak staff, I call upon the energy of the tree that was standing there and solid and rooted to the ground to help me stand up. And I ask for its, permission, to please give me that energy, to make it through the whatever I'm doing. So, uh, obviously, crystals are good. Um, I'm the type of person. I know some people are like really daunted about crystals. You know, they're like, I don't know what kind of crystals I should get. I don't know their properties. And I've always found a lot of luck if you go to if you're drawn to crystals, if that's something that you're drawn to. Because I'll be honest with you, since I was a little kid, this rock is shiny. This is my lucky rock for this. This rock is smooth and soft, and I like to carry it when I need to calm down. So that's what you do is you go to like a crystal shopper, or you know, if you're at a fair or something and somebody has the crystals, you go to, this rock speaks to me. I have this big chunk of obsidian, a 10-pound chunk of obsidian. It's a big chunk of obsidian. I was at a rock shop that had nothing to do with magic. It was just a rock shop. And they had this chunk of obsidian was sitting in a pile of some other rock that wasn't obsidian. And it was just sitting there. And I'm like, you don't belong here. And I picked it up and I was going to bring it somewhere else. And it's like, yeah, Kai saying that rock speak. Yeah, so you're another rock person. This thing, I picked it up to put it where it belonged, and it just said no. This was, gosh, like 30 years ago, and I still have it, and it's like one of the things that helps me when I have to, because obsidian absorbs negativity, and obsidian also is one of the rocks that you don't have to cleanse, so it's very grounding to me, and it helps me a lot. And having that 10-pound rock of obsidian when I'm feeling anxious or whatever, I can just grab it, and it like sucks all the negative energy away. Um, so finding rocks that might help you, crystals that might help you, of course, herbs, uh, incense, senses, unless you're like me, who's the worst witch ever, because I'm allergic to most incense and burning sage. No, I'm a salt water and salt person for cleansing. Um, Burning sage and burning stuff doesn't, because of my breathing. And that's the other thing, is learn how to, you know, how does your illness lend to how you have to cast circle, how you have to work with the different tools that you have. um, but I love rocks. You know, here's my lucky rock for this, here's my lucky rock for that. And I love trees too. I talked about my oak tree. I have a very special story about my oak tree. My oak tree, I know I'm amongst friends here, so I can talk about how trees talk to me, because I know some of you, trees talk to you too. And when I was living in England, you know, I made friends with this tree, and there was a branch that was kind of off. It looked like it might have been hit by lightning, and uh, it's uh, I felt like it was hurting the tree because it wasn't. It was like trying, because trees are like, I'm gonna try to keep you alive even though you're halfway broken off and starting to die. I'm gonna put all this energy. So I was, you know, the tree's like, hey, can you help me out here? So that's my oak staff. It came from, I felt like it's a gift from the tree, and I've always honored. Um, you know, it's very important to me. Um, Phaedra was talking about, and Eric were talking about just using. You don't have to have really elaborate things to practice, elaborate tools. But I think it's good to have tools. If you're not using like your finger, um, it's good to have things that connect, like my rock, like my staff, and those are mine. So find your things. And I had this wand that was just a stick, and somebody kept trying to throw it into the fire, and I kept taking it from them. And it was a really important stick, and finally they got it. finally they got it. I don't know. It must have gone into the fire. So I'm like, this is a really good fire. It's my baby went into the fire, but it must have been time for it to go. And I wanted to post what Kai said about using water and salt because you never know when somebody has allergies. So that's a good thing too, is try to work into your community what the needs are. I'm gluten free too because of my sensitivities. So cake and ale, we got to do gluten free. But that's all part of when you have people in your community that have those needs. Try to be aware of them, and I think we're doing good. So I want to do what Kai just put up because Kai, you did a perfect segue into what I wanted to talk about next. Kai's talking about when her kids were young, the trip to the library included taking plastic bag for pine cones, and a big pine cone was the toll for getting a ride home. I think that it's important to do things like that for when if you're raising kids within our traditions, to do the little things like that, like find a special pine cone, find a special rock, and have them learn. My if you have kids, if somebody has free pamphlets or any free paper stuff, must have it. I'm like, don't save the trees, leave them alone. But I think it's thank you, Jason. Jason just came in, says looking good on Roku. Trying. It's kind of getting late here or early, but this is usually when I thrive. I'm gonna be honest. This is the time of night when a lot of times I'm playing World of Warcraft. So if anyone wants to come onto my server and be friends with me on World of Warcraft, hit me up. But but I'm glad that I'm having company with you guys tonight, especially for such an important thing. I'm going to go ahead and plug us again. This is the road to the Parliament. We should have like echo. The road to the Parliament. I'm trying to find the thing that I'm trying to find here. The road to the Parliament 2023 Correllians live. Were you asleep? I woke you just up there. Woke you up to there. Another 50 hours of magic and community. We have started and we're going through the 7th, which is Sunday at 7 p.m. Had a lot of fun with the opening with a lot of the people that you'll be seeing through the week. And if you don't worry, if you missed any of this, it's going to be we're trying to make all these shows like bite-sized pieces for YouTube to make it easier for you to catch when you want to go back. So a lot of really good stuff here that we've had in the first day. How and when to cast a circle, and then witching hour spellcast. That's where we are now. Do you ever see Spaceballs where they're like fast forwarding in the movie and then they get to the infinite screens and they're like, we're now in the movie. This is now in the in the telethon. So we're in infinity right now. And then we'll be crossing the Rubicon. Cosmo Rubiconus will be with us here very shortly. Live in the Philippines, Rolando and Lakai will be with us. And I think I know that they are also on the auction for readings. Check and see how many of the people that you'll be seeing through the weekend have things in the auction too. I've got something else to tell you about that, but we're going to wait. We're going to put a pin in that and I'll continue on. Coffee time with Sir Brian. Sir Brian has been all of us have been working really hard to put this together, but we got to give props to Sir Brian and the music director, Sir Ebony, and of course General Elizabeth. But yeah, Cloud, everyone on the team. This has been a labor of love, and we hope that you see this. The Mighty Dead with Most Reverend Phoenix Coffin Williams and Christopher Penzak. That's it. I'm mugging it up for the camera, and I forgot that you're not seeing me. So, yes, this is where we are in the telethon where Pam is getting punch drunk. So the Mighty Dead, that's going to be a really good one to see. And again, if you're not there tomorrow, we want you to be there tomorrow, but if you're not, you can catch up with it on YouTube later. Correllians Crafties with Lady Kai. Thank you, Lady Kai, for being here tonight too. Conversation with Gail Tracy Mull with Reverend Mary Hawk, and it's about, psychic. I love to talk about that as well, because we're talking about ghosts and we're talking about energy and all. And I think that's understanding the energies around you is psychic, is the best way that I can explain being able to read them, being able to read the currents around you is, yeah. Bella Donna Laveau of the Aquarian Tabernacle Church. She will be with General Liz. R.L. Scott, meditation, neurospice. Learning to meditate when it's hard. I need that one. Pin that one. And then music night. Sir Ebony and Cloud, the pagan rapper, and I will be throwing you through the music night. There's something very special about tomorrow night with music night. We've spoken about reproductive rights a lot throughout the night, because it's something that is on a lot of people's minds, because it's being threatened here in the United States. And what are you going to do, when you piss off a bunch of witches, especially musical witches? They're going to put together an album. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to that, and switch to the album. The Red Album. So part of tomorrow night, we'll be talking with some of the people, some of the artists that put together this Red Album: Abortion Access, Pagan Music Project, Pagan Voices for Reproductive Rights, and some of your favorite artists, and some artists that you have not heard yet and need to hear. We've got S.J. Tucker, Spiral Rhythm, Celia Farron, Alexian, Spell Singer, Beltana. She just had a birthday on Beltane. Go figure. Ginger Ackley, Alexander James Adams, Crow Women. You can read these, and some of these guests will be here tomorrow. Celia will be here for sure. Brian Hankey will be here. Mama Gina. So we are really pleased to be having some of the people from the Red Album come and tell us more about it, and this whole, what they're going to be doing with this abortion access, the pagan voices for reproductive rights. And I'm trying to see if I can find out where they're contributing. So when you buy this, here it is. All the money from pre-sales will go to our beneficiaries: Elevated Access, grassroots organization, a small plane pilots who provide airplane rides to women or people who need access to abortion, and the National Abortion Federation that supports abortion clinics, runs a hotline and collects data about violence against abortion providers, among many, many initiatives. So we seem to forget, I think, that the paganism in the paganism in this country, in the United States, rose a lot of what we know of paganism, like especially from the 60s, are Kai mentioned earlier, and I said I'd come back to it, that you can't separate it from politics. You really can't, and you shouldn't, because we have to stand up for our rights. We have to stand up for the rights of our friends. Being pagans, we understand more. Talking about energy, I think we understand how gender and is fluid. Love is love. Gender is fluid. So standing up for our trans friends, being very body positive and sex positive, and teaching consent is very important to our community as well. There's so much that we have to protect, and being able to go to the Parliament of the world's religions during this time is extremely important, because so many of our rights are being threatened, that we really need to. Sorry, I'm looking for something right now so I can show it to you. We need to be there to do more. We need to. Okay, take a step back. Let's get our words together, Pam. It's good for us to be at the Parliament of World Religions, because there's so much threatening our beliefs, our ability, to practice our faith, when other faiths are taking over the spotlight and trying to lead us to one faith, which is not our faith. They're talking about, I think it's in Texas, good old Texas, and I consider myself a Texan of sorts. I've lived in Texas for most of my life, off and on. When Texas is talking about putting, sorry, I'm trying to get a link to work, and it's not working. It's not letting me do it. So I'm going to go ahead and just shut this then. When they're talking about putting the 10 Commandments in every school in Texas, and somebody posted that on Twitter, and I said, yeah, you're going to have a lot of pissed off witches collecting bottles now. That's not cool. Yeah. It is important for, and Kai said it, it's right here. It's not just us being there. This is not about us. I want to make this very clear, and Kai, you bring up the very important point. It's not just about us going on a field trip and like, oh, we want to go and have a Chicago hot dog with sauerkraut and deep dish pizza from Chicago. No, this is a working trip, and you're helping. When you donate, you're helping us be ambassadors for our faith to the world's religions. You're helping us be able to help other. I honestly think that General Liz was inspired. Excuse me. I'm thinking it was probably 10 years ago. It's when the Parliament was at Salt Lake, and I know she went to the Parliament in Salt Lake. No, it was 8 years ago. She went to the Parliament in Salt Lake 8 years ago, and she was very. And this is just me thinking that this is why I feel that this is really important to General Liz. Is I think she was so stricken. It just took her. It resonated with her how much like the Sikhs came out and fed everyone, made sure people were fed, made sure that they gave people comfort. The people of the Sikh faith, and I think that really resonated with her. I think she wanted us to be able to do that, and especially as paladins. So this is really important to us. This is not, hey, let's go to Chicago. There will be some of that. Come on, it's Chicago. Come on. We're gonna want to do that, but uh, it is important, and I'm gonna go ahead and leave Kai's comment up there for as long as I can because that is Kai. Thank you so much for putting that for putting that out there because this is so extremely important. Um, so I'm trying to go back and pick up the loose threads of things that I said. Put a pin on it. I'll come back and let's talk about that. So one of the things I talked about. Okay, I am a Duda's priest of the Church of the Latter Day Dudes. Taoist is a form of Eastern philosophy that is very, very close to Wicca, to what we would consider Wicca. It's a feminine energy. There's not necessarily a goddess. You can't really define the divine in Taoism. You just feel it. You just experience it, and you learn to. The Tao means the way. So you learn just to go with the flow, literally go with the flow. And I know it's kind of silly to think of like the Big Lebowski as a, oh, there's a religion, and there is a religion based on the Big Lebowski. And some people are like, yeah, let's just drink White Russians and smoke pot. If that's how you want to celebrate and how you want to worship, then. But I am definitely drawn to the Taoist nature of of the dude. If you've ever seen the movie, and he's pretty much Taoism is pretty much just let things go, and the universe will figure it out. And if you fight the flow, it's counter getting stuff done. Um, a good uh, I want to go ahead and put Kai's comment here too about General Liz. She is pretty selfless. She believes a lot in what the Paladins, in the mission of the Paladins, and not just lip service. We're talking about World of Warcraft earlier, and I was telling one of my friends that I'm a paladin in this, and she's like, "Do you get to throw this spell?" And I'm like, "World of Warcraft spell? Do you get to fight with this?" I'm like, "No, it's paladins. We do good things. we're we're not paladins. I'm not a blood elf paladin or an orc. Well, you can't be an orc paladin." Um, but there's a when you think about the Tao, you think about about working with the energies around you, and if you fight against it, you're just fighting against. I have to, and some Taoists will flip out that I'm using this, but I love the Tao of Pooh, which is like Winnie the Pooh, using Winnie the Pooh to teach the Tao. And you have Rabbit, and you have Piglet, and you have Eeyore, and they're all like, freaking out. And Pooh just is. And Pooh's like, I want my honey. It's raining. Things are flooding. Pooh's like, I got my honey. It's safe. And he's eating his honey, and he falls into the floodwater. And Piglet is like trying to stay afloat, and he gets on a chair and is in the floodwater, and he's freaking out because he thinks he's gonna drown. And Pooh's just eating his honey and going with the flow. And they go over a waterfall, and Pooh pops his head out of the honey pot, and they're like, "Hey, Pooh," and he's like, "Hey," and they flip over the chair, and the honey pot saved Piglet, and like, "You're a hero!" And Pooh's like, "Oh, cool," because he went with the flow. I hope I'm making sense. But that to me is why I'm drawn to Taoism, because I have anxiety. I have serious anxiety. And I think going back to the chronic illness thing that I was talking about, and how you can use our beliefs and our faith and our, what we learn from magic and uh, from what we learn from energy and everything. When you start using that, excuse me, um, you can use this to help you overcome the anxiety. So what I would always do when I would get an anxiety attack when I was learning about Taoism is I would say, okay, look, just, getting anxious. This is actually pretty interesting. Getting anxious, and we're going to use some elemental magic here, and going with the flow, and using the same type of, the metaphor, in the river, the flood coming up around you. You're going to drown. You fight it, you get pulled under. But if you surf and you go with the flow, you'll be lifted up and you'll be above it. And you just go with it until it brings you aground, and you go, I'm on my way, and you go and do what you were gonna do before the anxiety took over. So if you think about going back into elemental, and this is what I love about when you start living magically, you start finding the correspondences with everyday mundane things and how you can use that in your life. So back to the anxiety, and we talk about elemental magic with water. Water is emotions, right? Anxiety is, it can be said to be like an overwhelming emotions, negative emotions that you can drown in. It can drown you. You feel short of breath. You feel like you're being pulled under. You feel like you're out of control. So you just surf. You just learn to float. And what happens when you're drowning, you can't breathe. So breathe. Exhale slowly, and you float, and you use air and water together, obviously, because you're breathing and you're floating. And I like using that when I'm talking about anxiety and Taoism. Taoism basically helped save my life, because I that's when I found Taoism is when I was going through the very first anxiety and panic attacks that I had when I was 27, which is the year of the Saturn return, which is when things get real in your life. So, uh, maybe that's a conversation that we could get into. But I'm going to try to pick up. There was something that I was going to bring up that we talked about before, and I said put a pin in it. And I can't remember what it is, so we're good. I'm just going over the Sir Emerald will be with us also, doing some stuff. And I've got a really good conversation tomorrow night during the witching hour. The first part of it will be a conversation with Laura Gonzalez, Magia Sarati, the Blue Witch. She reads tarot. She's an educator. She's from Chicago, but she was born in Mexico. And she is a podcaster, an international podcaster. She's done Spanish language podcasting, English podcasting, teaching, and one of the things that she'll be doing she'll be at at Parliament. That's where she lives, and she will be at Parliament, and she will be doing a class on like the dead and honoring the dead. She does some really good classes. I've had her on podcasts before when I was doing podcasts with Pagans Tonight. Had her at least twice do a class on like the Day of the Dead. Um, and we talk a little bit about, honoring another culture as opposed to cultural appropriation. So it's a pretty good conversation. It's recorded. I'm going to tell you now, I had unstable internet, so it's going to be I don't know how I'm going to edit it to make it not look really wonky, but it'll be on tomorrow night. And then Sunday, I'll have a conversation with Selena Fox from Circle Sanctuary. And by the way, Magia, Laura is a minister from Circle Sanctuary, and Selena Fox is also she's like the head. She's she is Circle Sanctuary. She isn't Circle Sanctuary, but she is the head of Circle Sanctuary, the head priestess. And we'll be talking about the importance of interfaith involvement, which is, like I said, very important now when we have like one faith basically trying to overrule a lot of other faiths. And I'm not saying there's a lot of good people in another faith, but there's people who are trying to take preaching to the choir. I don't have to tell you. So talking about Selena Fox. Oh yeah. So I was like trying to remember what I was going to talk. So I work with Selena and Laura also doing Circle Sanctuary Network podcast. Selena and I this is like when I talk about going with the flow with the universe, when you just and you catch the energies and you surf through it, and it's going to take you where you need to go. I'm a military brat, and I was a military wife and a civilian that worked on a military installation, and I am what we call a third culture kid, or military brats are also known as third culture kids because we're brought up in different cultures, separate than maybe what our peers were raised in, and the military. Kai, thank you for your service. I know Kai has served as well. Cloud, Sir Rich has served. Um, once you get into that military, the culture of the military, it's its own brotherhood and sisterhood. It's its own community, and it becomes part of ingrained in your DNA. And that's how I was raised, and it was tough growing up as a pagan and somebody who has my political beliefs too. Um, but a lot of people don't realize that the military is actually can be when it's done correctly, can be a very safe place for pagans, and it can be a very encouraging place for pagans. There's a lot more Christian evangelical energy that's been pumping in to since like the 90s into the military. But the military itself, the rules, the structure, and all there's been some issues, but when you're talking to DoD and Department of Defense, you're talking about two different departments, bureaucracy. Okay, so the DoD are the active duty military, and sorry, I said Department of Defense. The Department of Veterans Affairs, two different things. DoD is Department of Defense, that's one thing, and Department of Veterans Affairs is a totally different thing. So these are people who've left the service in the Veterans Affairs, and these are people who are active right now. So the DoD allows the chaplains at the DoD are supposed to give, they may be Catholic, they may even be Jewish chaplains, but their job is to give spiritual comfort. And it's not necessarily to give, LDS comfort, Mormon comfort. It's to give spiritual comfort. So they're supposed to accommodate all spiritual beliefs. And Reverend Selena, I don't know everyone who was involved, but I know she was part of the folks that were involved with creating the DoD's guidebooks for pagans and Wiccans and Druids, and it's grown a lot more to, uh, there's a lot of heathens in northern tradition who are attracted, warriors, go figure, that are attracted to the military, and um, Selena and Circle Sanctuary um, sponsor circles in military, and they're not the only ones. There's Sacred Well Congregation, Correllian Tabernacle Church with Belladonna DeLoe. Her organization also sponsors military circles, and they're all across the world. And that's one of the things. That's how I met Selena. Is I was leading a circle on an Air Force base in Texas, and I was going through an organization that I didn't feel I was gelling with, but I thought that was the only organization that worked with pagans, and in the military. And one of my pagans was in the hospital, and I went to bring him. I said, "What can I bring for you?" And he's like, "Bring me something to read." So I got some magazines, and Selena's on the cover, and I'm reading about all the work she does and Circle Sanctuary does with the military. And I'm like, this is who I need to be talking with. And going back full circle to where I started, I was a radio disc jockey. And my friends were saying, you really need to get into podcasting because our community needs more voices. This was, 2011. Our community needs more voices, especially, people who know podcasting or know broadcasting. And I was reading the article, and I said, what the heck? This is also part of manifesting. Go ahead and be brave. Go ahead and take chances. And manifesting doesn't happen without you putting forth the effort. So I reached out to Selena and I said, hey, Selena. Well, I didn't say it like that, but I said, I'm a somebody that has like 20 years of radio experience, and I would like to work with you doing a podcast. And she just happened to be looking to, she'd been thinking about doing a podcast for a while, and I got her she came we started doing a podcast together on 11/11/11, and I also did work with her on uh, with the pagans in the military at the Air Force Base. And I'm going to tell you, it was very, working with young pagans in the military has been very rewarding, and I've made some very good friends in my life through it. Um, I want to go ahead and say real quick to Cosmo, since you're here, you want to go ahead and you can pop on the screen real quick because you're coming up next. If you want to talk at least a little bit about what people might have in store with your show coming up. Cosmo, you can say something.
Yeah, I think you can hear me, but I don't know. You might have to click me to allow me on. Let's see. There we
Do
go.
it. Oh, there you are. Yay!
How you
People
doing?
are probably getting tired of hearing me ramble on.
Yeah. No, it sounded great. I mean, it's hard, right, to discuss, for 2 hours, and I think you've done a fine job. And
Aw, thank you.
yeah,
I'm looking
yeah.
forward to yours too. But I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to have to listen to yours later after it's recorded and put up on the, on YouTube, because I need some sleep.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But
I'm
I'm on
LA
East
time.
Coast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're East Coast. Yeah.
So are you originally from LA?
No, I'm from Texas there.
Where at in Texas?
Dallas, Fort Worth, but this was I moved to LA in 1994.
So Dallas. Well, which of the suburbs of? Yeah, Kai, we're good. We like Kai's like, I had a great time even if I should be sleeping, and you have a show in the morning. Kai, you're dismissed, but make sure you catch Cosmo later. So when you can catch it, we'll try to catch your craft show later too. There's so much stuff. It's 50 hours, Cosmo. There's so much to watch.
Yeah, and me as an introvert, it's all I can do to do 2-hour segments, and then I have to recharge. So
I was talking about earlier that it's going to be interesting because my energy is like, ha, and you're more sedate. So
well, I can be pretty manic. I can get pretty excited, but then when I do, my pitch goes up. So if I stay calm, I don't sound like Kermit the Frog, and then everybody will appreciate that. So there's kind of a method to the madness.
very cool, very cool. You're talking about coming from Dallas Fort Worth. I was just north in Wichita Falls.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, that's there's this thing about Texas. You gotta love Texas, you gotta hate Texas. And people, it's like family. It's like I can talk bad about my family, but you better not don't talk bad about Texas. But there's a lot of stuff that Texas has been doing that's been, yeah. So
Well, I had a lot of family there, but my mom and dad's passed and my sister passed. So it's really just my brother there now. So I haven't really gotten back in quite a while. After I did my executor on my mom's will, which was I don't know, a couple of years ago or so, it's just the whole thing's really kind of changed. So my mind's very much California, LA. It's where my family is. So
I I lived in Texas when I was like 4 years old, and I don't remember
mhm.
much about it because it's like 4 years old. And then we went to California. So I lived in Southern California from like, 6 years old until 10 years old. So I grew up going to Disneyland at least once, maybe twice a year. And go figure, with the Winnie the Pooh days are my favorite. I love Winnie the Pooh. Um, uh, yeah, and Tigger. Um, and then we went to Germany for 3 years, and it's a big culture shock, big time, because living in Southern California where there's everything, and we had cable TV before it was like really big, and you had all these channels, and then I go to Germany where we have one channel in English that's showing American shows, and this is this isn't like in the 50s. This is when color TV was the norm, but we had our TV was in black and they only broadcast in black and white. They didn't have a color transmitter.
Mm.
So it was a big shock, like I said, going from California to Germany, and then we went from there to Texas. Um, and yeah, like I said, third culture. It's like a totally different, separated.
Yeah, it would be hard for me to ever move back to Texas. I just love the ocean. We live fairly close to it, like 15 minutes away. And I just pick up, the vibes, doing like journals at night on the beach after sunset. I mean, this is to me one of my favorite things. It's like when you're connected totally. I mean, you feel those waves coming in, you feel that energy, you're standing at the edge of another world, this deep mystery, and it's really kind of manifested right in front of you.
It's
And yeah.
it's really interesting how we find those keys, because I
Mm,
know, and to other worlds. When I was talking about the the trees in England, to me the trees in England,
mm,
they're interdimensional beings don't have to be things like fairies, or because you could talk about dryads are tree spirits. They don't have to be things like Sasquatch or the Yeti, or interdimensional can be something that you can see, but you're just not seeing how it's living, like the
mhm,
ocean, like the trees, like. And that's one of my, when I'm around trees I get that, but I love, what I miss that's out there in
mm.
California is the
Oh,
desert.
oh, yeah, there you go.
How you are with the ocean is how I am with the
Uh-huh.
desert.
Okay.
At night, that energy, that desert energy is so
Well,
amazing.
Yeah,
It's
and you're saying the night especially. I love it when everything's quiet. The noise of the day is quiet. That's when my brain comes alive. If I'm doing creative work or journaling or want to get into the flow, it's like that solitude, that just calm peace. So that's my favorite time. And well, really, another part of my favorite time is that right. What is it called? Dusk, right when
the
sunsets
twilight. Yeah, that is.
and that blue, that rich color, and it's blending over. It's like, oh my God, I could live in that moment, that infinite moment right there when you're really at the edge of, again, two worlds.
It
It's
is.
it's like I liken this to the space between thoughts or between words, that unspoken infinite separation there, that you get the true wisdom, not just the actual superficials, but you kind of find the crevice in between stuff. And it's just like that twilight. It's, there's something powerful about that.
Well, and then with the witching hour, there's something about being in the dead of the night, but
Mm.
it's a lot more. It's a heavier. It's a more solid. It's more, but that transition period, the twilight, either heading into night or going into the day. But I like the going into the night. I prefer that to the dawn. But there's something about the dawn. There's something different about the dawn, but I just feel more comfortable with twilight. And there's a reason. I mean, I feel the magic. To me, magic is really alive for me during twilight.
Well,
There,
and it can change different times in our lives, right? And even at the same time, we get those keys like you're talking about, depending on what's going on in our lives and what we resonate with and who comes and goes and kind of resonates that frequency. And maybe we align
that
with them and want to join them in the morning daylight more. And then there's times when, for me, if that's not the case, then I kind of naturally gravitate back to that nighttime again. But, thankfully, we can go through those different paths. We don't have to fixate on one. We can be enriched by those different types of experiencing the world, or listening to the rustling of leaves or the quiet of the desert, like you're talking about. In different times in our lives may resonate differently.
there's just something about the energy of the desert. Okay, so I got to tell you one of my favorite places. Energy. I don't know if you're talking about the energy of the ocean, and we're talking about the desert, but I
Mhm.
maybe tomorrow night I'll talk more about ley lines. I love ley lines. I love that's the when I was a kid I could actually see them in the ground. As an adult, I can feel them, but I can't. I can see them, but not as clearly as I did as a child. And that's the energy grid that is in the earth. Um, and it's where was I going with ley lines?
Well,
No, the energy of the desert is some of the places on earth that have that energy that's amazing. What I like about the high, I prefer the high desert. And when I lived in New Mexico, we were we would drive up into the Jemez Mountains, which are like some of the oldest mountains on the planet. And it's a place where there was a cataclysmic, eruption that basically tore the continent almost in half. And there's this, just talking about it, I'm getting, there's a caldera that is huge. It's this huge valley that's an extinct caldera of a volcano. And we turned the corner to go to this. The energy that was coming from that was like, I could stay here until I exploded. I could stay here. But yeah,
well, you mentioned something. I know we're running on
yeah,
a
yeah.
transition time here, but you mentioned you experienced it a little different as a child. One of the keys with magic is having that childlike spirit and always rekindling that. So there's a whole discussion there about bringing that into our lives. And when we connect with children and they reinvigorate that within us, or grandchildren, or, or even animals. I mean, our dogs, are like kids, and they invigorate that childlike view of the world that, it gets rid of all the pessimism and cynicism, and it's just, let's just enjoy the act of play. Let's just enjoy the act of being in the moment.
That's why I'm drawn to the Taoism, and why, to me, like, I know I talk about being a Buddhist priest and the Church of the Latter Day Dude and the Big Lebowski, but look at back to the movie The Big Lebowski, if you've ever seen it. All chaos is going on around the dude, but he's just being the dude. And things may blow up for Walter, things may blow up for Donnie, and for the Mr. Lebowski, the real Mr. Lebowski. But the dude, he just he just flows with it, and
That's right.
it's that, and that's part of why I like Pooh as well, because Pooh has that childlike energy. So I thank you for jumping on and being part of this transition, talking about transitions. This is the sun is going down on my show and coming up on your show. And thank you for sharing this energy with me, Cosmo.
Oh, you're welcome. So I'll drop off and I'll jump over to my segment. When you ping me, I'm good.
Okay. And thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me again. And I'll see you tomorrow night. We'll have the same lineup. I'll be on for the Witching Hour Spellcast, and Cosmo will be joining me afterwards. I hope you really enjoy his show. I really like that laid back California vibe. It's going to be a nice transition from my rabbit jumping all over the place. But I appreciate you sticking with me for as long as you did tonight. And let's see, did we get any more people donating tonight? It's kind of chill tonight. Hopefully we can pull some the last person who donated was Cosmo 2 hours ago. So please, if you can donate, do donate. givebutter.com/C for campaign /Correllians Live. Check out what we have on the auction, and definitely check out what we have on the auction, because there's some really good stuff on there, books and jewelry and readings and artwork and stickers. So I am heading on out. I am going to let me make sure if I'm supposed to do the okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do, am I try to figure out a Cosmo. I'm going to go ahead and do a donation break. So the donation break is, I'm going to play the same one that I played at the beginning, because I really like this one. So you know a little bit more about what we're doing. And then I am out, and you have a wonderful night, and we'll see you tomorrow. Don't forget, music block tomorrow. Tell your friends, bring the neighbors, bring the dog, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Take care. Blessings.
You're watching the 2023 Correllians Live Telethon. The team here would like to thank you for all of your support in assisting us in bringing a contingent of paladins to the Parliament of the World's Religions in Chicago, Illinois, August of this year. We are trying to raise $10,000 to assist with the basic needs of housing, food, and travel expenses. Here are some words from the members of the event team on why it is important that we reach that goal.
Hello, I'm Right Reverend Sir Elizabeth, Program Director of the 2023 Correllians Live Telethon. Thank you so much for tuning in to our weekend-long event as we raise $10,000 to bring a contingent of paladins to the Parliament of the World's Religions coming up in August. We need to house and feed about 20 of us over in Chicago for 7 days. And to do that, we're going to need at least 10 grand. So here's our ask. Go to Correllians.live/donate and make us a monetary donation to our cause. Every dollar helps. We also have psychic readers and an auction you can participate in too. If you can't make a monetary donation, then do us another very big favor and share the event with your friends over social media. You can find us on the Pagan World TV app on Roku, Correllians Live and Magic TV via YouTube and Correllians.live via any web browser. Thank you so much for your help and enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody. I am Reverend Sir Richard Donahue, also known as Cloud the Pagan Rapper, and I am a member of the Order of Paladins. Now, to help us send a contingent to the Parliament of World Religions, to me, means one thing: community. It's the idea of coming together with multiple faiths for common goals. And it is paramount for the pagan community to have a seat at that table. And I, for one, am very, very proud that we are afforded this opportunity to do so. But to do that, we do need your help. We're trying to raise $10,000 so that we can feed and house the contingency of paladins that will be going to the Parliament. And it's through your help that we're going to be able to get there and represent the community in the best possible way that we can. So please, smash that donate button, all right? Smash that donate button. You can go to Correllians.live to donate. And I want to thank you guys for taking part in the telethon, okay? Check out our auction. Get yourself a reading from Divinationality. Do all of the things that we have provided for you throughout these 3 days, and let us come together in community and achieve our goal and allow us paladins to go and represent us at Parliament. Thank you very much. May you all blessed be.
One of the best things about Parliament is one of the best things that we need in our society, which is unity, compassion, and fellowship, which is something I'm extremely looking forward to. And I hope that this will be inspiration for the future in helping us to be more as one in a community. So join us. Continue to join us. Thank you for sharing and liking our posts. And please continue to sponsor us.
At the Parliament of World Religions in 2023, I'm personally looking forward to broad exposure and deep engagement with various wisdom traditions from around the world, particularly as regards pressing issues from today and future goals for our human journey. I expect that I'll be able to incorporate much of the learning back into my own personal path, as well as share tangible insights back into the metaphysical and spiritual community that I work within.
From all of us here at the 2023 Correllians Live Telethon, we want to thank you again for your support. Please be sure to check out Divination Alley and get yourself a reading. Or check out our online auction that is overflowing with wonderful craft items, books, and services for sale. Remember, our goal is to raise $10,000, so please help us spread the word about the event, our cause, and be sure to stay tuned for more. So thank you all again, and may you all blessed be. Enjoy the telethon.